Live from Old Town, this is your boy MC Liki welcoming you to this Christmas edition of our program Literature for West Africa on Itsmis TV. And today it promises to be interesting and rewarding as usual. Now remember, as advertised on our handle, we said we're going to be considering Geoffrey Chaucer's non-priest tale, okay? Yes, but very strikingly, it is important for everyone to understand, for us to properly understand this poem today. It is very imperative that we look at the history of English literature, because that's how to contextualize the words used in this poem, all right, which will make it very easy for students to understand. It's a very long one, a narrative poem for that matter, but I have said it is important for us to look at the social underpinnings that engendered the words that we used in this poem, which will help you, the reader at home or the student at home, to understand the poem. All right, now it's a very long poem. It's not what we are going to be reading. It's not at all. It's not. It's a very lengthy one. So what will happen is that it's important that we look at the very first standard, very few stanzas of the poem, and then I'll give you the historical background, and then we take it up from there. Now, remember, let's look at it. Once long ago, there dwelt a poor old widow in a small cottage by a little meadow, beside a grove and standing in a dale. This widow woman, of whom I tell my tale, since the sad day when last she was a wife, had led a very patient and simple life. Okay, that's where I'm going to stop for today. Now, it's very important, like I told you earlier, that we look at, the social underpinnings that gave rise to this poem. Remember, the Middle English period in which Geoffrey Chaucer wrote was one that was very, very unique, and all the social events were very, very significant. Now, remember, it's a period that succeeded the Old English period, heralded by the conquest of William the Conqueror, the Norman, okay? He came, conquered the territory, seized all the land, and restructured the society. Of course, if you look at the whole poem, you will see the agrarian, agricultural motif that runs throughout the poem. But that's not, the main gist of this poem, okay? We're going to find out. Now, remember that this program was brought to you by Itsmis Enterprises in conjunction with Imo State Government, Eustabel International School, and Doris High School. All right? Okay, so let's proceed from here. Now, the poem describes the vicissitudes of a particular widow woman, all right? Her experiences, okay? But it typifies the experience, or symbolizes, or stands for the experience of a category of people in the English society of the Middle Age period. So, who are these people? Now, the society of the Middle Age period is divided into three. You have the king, who is the supreme, who represents or typifies the conqueror himself, all right? And then you have the nobles, who worked directly under him. And then you have the cours, all right? That's the slave, or the people at the lowest rung of the society, okay? They worked for the nobles, who worked for the king. Have you seen it? So, this woman described in this poem belonged to the cour, the group of people known as cour, okay, who doesn't really have or exercised any rights in that society. Their lives were largely run by what the nobles dictated. Of course, the nobles are indebted to the king, the overlord. So have you seen it? So that's the only way you can appreciate what Geoffrey Chaucer talked about in this poem. All right. So a widow woman, okay, who talked about her activities, all right, in that cottage, all right, in that farmhouse. So have you seen it? How she was hardworking and contented, typifying, the virtues and the virtues that everyone should possess, all right, in the society. That's what the English society, which is what our society is modeling, all right, or is following, or is trying to copy, is one that is hierarchical, and everyone has its place. Therefore, it's telling every member of the society how to conduct themselves. All right, those of them that find, the bourgeois and then the proletariats. It's telling the proletariats how they must conduct themselves in the society. So have you seen it? That's what that woman in that cottage, who is the protagonist of this poem, is about. So have you seen it? So she worked in a farm, all right, and she had a cock, all right. That's what was described in the poem. Of course, that cock that was being referred to in this poem is not an animal per se, all right, but has to do with the head of farm activities in that courtyard. Okay, how that head related with, that's not the literally the connotative meaning, inferable meaning from this poem. How that head that related with other people, other servants in that farmhouse who worked with him. So have you seen it? So have you seen it now? So what are the themes derivable from this poem? Of course, we will begin with the very first one, which is the theme of status. Right? There is an odd saying in English literature which says, "Man, know thyself." I think it's borrowed from the Greek pantheon. All right, he said, "Man, know thyself." That is, man, know thy place, know what you can do, know your limitations, know the pedestal on which you are standing. Have you seen it? Because the call will not trespass or will not in any way be insubordinate to the nobles. Have you seen it? So that's why it's important for us to understand the historical, interpretation of this poem. Of course, the poem has an agrarian tone, and then there is also a religious tone identifiable in the poem. Remember, it was the period, the Anglo-Saxon period that we are talking about, when the Catholic, Catholicism held sway in England, right? So there is always this religious undertone. They were coming from the history of the Puritans. Remember the Puritans? Yes, if you have not been taught by a teacher, he or she will let you know, right? There are a group of people called the Puritans who were known for their religious beliefs and affiliation, which they held firm and they never abandoned or went against. Have you seen it? So those are the historical underpinnings that we have to pay attention to for us to understand this. But if it had not been a very long one, I would have read. But this one is about 80 lines. No, we don't have time for that. Okay? So I've said the first one is that everyone in the society must understand their place. That's the status what I was talking about. If you're a call, you have to conduct yourself as a call. If you're a noble, you have to conduct yourself as a noble. You are indebted to the king. Have you seen it? So that's it. Now, the next one is the act of chivalry, all right? Courtly love, as was practiced then, which was typified with that cock. How he related with other, people in that farm, the hen. He had about 7 hen he related with, right? Not that he related with them in a way to dominate, or to have them to himself, but to help them to achieve their goal in the farmhouse. So have you seen it? It's a very interesting poem. Some people call it an allegory, but it's not actually an allegory. I don't agree with them because it's a narrative kind of poem. Although, animals are brought in at some point, to portray or to drive home the message of the poem, but it's not outrightly an allegory. I call it a narrative poem, right? All right, and then there is the theme of contentment and modesty, as apotheosized by the behavior of this widow woman. Have you seen it? There was a way and a manner in which she conducted herself, which was exemplary, and which the writer urges us to emulate. Have you seen it? So before we continue again, let me remind you that this was brought to you by Its Enterprises in conjunction with the Imo State Government, Eastern International School, and Andrews High School. Now, it is also pertinent that I tell you to look at some of my books on Amazon Kindle. You have Torn Apart, Spirogera, A Rise from the Rubble. You have The Essence of Prudence. You have Naira Kobo and other poems. You have Strewn, and the big one is coming out very soon, which is Blue. All right, Blue Fantasies is a very fantastic novel. We are still working on it. We are looking at 70,000 words. All right, that's what I'm going to give you in that novel. But calm down, it's going to be next year. I'm still working on it. Okay. All right. So to conclude this episode of Literature for West Africa, it's important for us to note the last theme of this poem that we are considering today, the theme of hard work. All right, it cannot be removed from the poetry of the Middle English period. All right, for you to elevate yourself, as suggested by David Henry Thoreau, where he said, I have known no other fact, commendable fact, than the conscious ability of man to elevate himself through a conscious endeavor. For a man to achieve that, it has to be through the dint of hard work. Have you seen it? And that's what the poem preaches. That woman, irrespective of her widowhood, worked hard, to maintain her looks and her status in the society. So applies to everyone or every member of the society. So applies to you out there. That which you are involved in, you must do it with the whole of your heart and ensure that it brings honor, not just to you, but to entire society in which you live in. All right, so some of the literary devices used in the poem include run on line. Of course, there is this rhyme scheme, definite rhyme scheme used in the poem. And rhyme scheme, you have in every couplet of the poem rhymes. Have you seen it? That's the structure, and you have euphemism on that fifth line. Of course, you have simile, all right, and you have repetition of what is called the symbolism. You have hyperbole. Of course, there are a lot of figures of speech used in this poem, okay, which I am not going to point out one after the other and where they are in this poem because of its length. All right, please make sure that you enjoy your Christmas this Yuletide period. All right, and remember the less privileged. My name remains Msiliki, otherwise known as Okafor Ogochukwu Amos. This was brought to you by It's Miss TV, owned by Its Enterprises in conjunction with the Imo State Government, Eastern International School, and Andrews High School. Until I'm coming away again, my name still remains Msiliki. I'm saying bye for now. God bless you.